Welcome back to another Out of Spec Reviews video. We have another electrified vehicle, although it's not fully electric. It's this thing right here, 2021 Ford Escape hybrid, but it's the plug-in hybrid, which it is plugging in right now. So I'm going to take you on a range test in the city. We'll see if we can actually hit their estimated 37 miles of city range with mixed driving up to about 40 miles an hour or so. So I'll walk you through the test, the vehicle, and everything. Join me for the ride. So again, this is a 2021, effectively the same as 2022 in rapid red. This is the titanium, so top of the line. Oh, and here's the key, typical Ford key. Literally nothing special about it. But yeah, it is charging right now. Plugged into this little EV Link charger, and basically it's nearly wrapped up. So I'm going to take on a quick tour of the car just while it's finishing, because we like to start these range tests immediately upon hitting full charge. So you got your little plug-in hybrid badge right there. Open the trunk up. Ford's made a big deal about this because it has a lot more space than prior hybrid and plug-in hybrid Fords. So obviously the normal Escape utility. You do have some underfloor storage, although you have the battery right there, the little 12-volt battery, and charging cable, of course, with the nice Ford logo there. Although I don't know if I'd want that bouncing around with the battery. And it's all in the space where a spare tire could be. There is an optional mini spare tire, apparently. We did not have that in this. We just have the little fix-a-flat kit right there. But that's effectively the back. Pretty simple, standard, bare bones. Of course, the rows fold down, the 60-40 split. Great storage capacity. I actually owned an Escape for a few years. It was the prior gen, but very similar. Decent wheels. I don't know how I feel quite about this color combo. Rapid red, yes, these are 18s. You can also get 19s. I think that's the sweet spot for the Escape. And maybe a different color, if you ask me. This does have the optional panoramic moonroof, which we'll take a look at on the inside here. Let's see, back seat. I'm sitting behind myself. This is great. And I love having the moonroof. That's the only thing my Escape did not have. And yeah, interesting two-tone seats here, you can see, and decent storage, a mixture of USB-A, USB-C ports. Let's go up to the front, and here we are in the passenger seat right here. So I will point out the interesting materials. This actually feels pretty cheap, like it's not titanium in any way. And this is like obviously fake glossy kind of wood. Just everything is like not good to touch. And even the buttons, I don't know, they're fine. But I'm not the biggest fan of this. And the screen, for some reason, when you're over in the driver's seat, you look over, the screen looks like it's angled towards the passenger. Just nitpicking at this point. But overall, it's fine. It is comfortable. These seats are nice. I would thoroughly enjoy road tripping this thing. So what do you say we get it unplugged? Just should be wrapped up with charging now, and we'll see how we do in this city range test. With this new generation, you do have that nice new display there, so it's a decent driver's gauge, and of course all the driving modes. Now before I get it fired up, I do want to point out our testing procedure. We basically turn the car on, have climate control between 68 and 72, depending on the exterior conditions, on the lowest fan speed as possible. And then we'll put it in eco mode, and in this case, EV mode. So that should get us the maximum range possible. And I do want to match this number because it's a big deal. That's 37 miles is really quite impressive on a plug-in hybrid. Not as much as the top of the line runners, but better than some. So let's get it fired up here. The start stop way up there. Okay, so ready to drive, 100% charged. Great. Calm screen. We are going to eco mode, doing that with the mode selector button here. There we go. Bluetooth took over really quick. EV mode, auto EV. I'm going to EV now. And you can also do EV later, or it won't. So the fourth one's not selectable because that is how you charge it while driving. And that leads me up to how we prepared for this. We actually drove it around earlier to charge the battery initially. And what it does is it actually charges only up to about 78 or 79%. I'm guessing 80 is like the hard limit, but we never actually saw 80%. And then it will just continue to drive like normal, sort of hybrid. It'll basically retain that battery percentage. And so you can't actually drive it around and get full battery. You have to actually plug it in to see the 100%, which is the point of a plug-in hybrid. It's showing here 23 miles estimated range for the battery, so that will be interesting. Just waiting here for the traffic to dwindle as I pull out of the lot here at our office. But you can see here, trip 2 I'll basically be using to track how far I've gone, and it does keep track of total miles and electric miles. And I had also eclipsed the or reset the efficiency, so actually this can't be reset, I don't think. Yeah, this just says average 2.3 miles per kilowatt hour, or estimated range on next full charge is 22.3 miles. See if we can beat that 22. We better, because that's what the car says it will do. Pulling away. And my goal is to essentially not use full throttle. I'm not going to just mat it everywhere, because that's not the typical way you would drive a plug-in hybrid. You might own one of these because you're conscious of the environment or just don't want to spend money on gas. And depending on your commute, a plug-in hybrid is actually a brilliant solution. Me and Kyle have debated a lot about whether or not they should exist, and I definitely think they should. It's just dependent on whether or not you actually take full advantage of the plug-in aspect, which makes me think about price. This is, I think, starting about $35,000. As tested, this is about $43,000, and it's essentially $5,000 more than the equivalent hybrid Escape. Now, the hybrid Escape does not qualify for the full federal tax credit with the, in this case, about $6,500, which may not last forever, but that is what the Escape qualifies for, due to its battery size, I believe, which is 14.4 kilowatt hours. Now, we've reached out to Ford and we cannot get clarification on whether that is usable or gross, but that is what they state, is 14.4 kilowatt hours. While I'm driving, like I said, I'm not matting the throttle or anything. I'm also just doing typical stop and go traffic. I'll be essentially under 40 mpg, give or take. So we'll just see how this goes. I want to point out again that I have the climate control kind of in the middle between our range of 68 and 72. Also, I love that the fan speed can be auto, but 3 different levels. So I have auto on the lowest level. I love cars that do that. If they don't do that, honestly, I never use auto. I find that it never actually does what I would like it to do. So just cruising along here. I do not have the heated seats or steering wheel turned on. I don't think they're really necessary, and I just want to see how good this will do. I love that while you're in all electric, it just says 999.9 miles per gallon. This is technically rated at 105 miles per gallon mpg E, which is actually pretty good for its class. I think that edges out the like RAV4 Prime, but we'll see how good it actually does. We've done 1 mile, so I'll update you every once in a while. I'm not going to just drag you along for this entire drive, but I will enjoy my ride in the Escape. So what this features under the hood, obviously the electrified components include the 14.4 kilowatt hour battery, partnered with a 2.5 liter inline 4, and the combined output is 221 horsepower, and I believe it's about 155 or 165 pound-feet of torque. So not a power monster whatsoever, but it definitely gets out of its own way, and I don't mind the calibration so much. CVTs are never really an engaging transmission experience, but that's what this has. So quick check-in though, I am using the performance monitor sort of screen. So it says 91% state of charge, and it always tells you how much time it takes to fully recharge. When it's completely dead, I think it's about 3.5 hours on like a level 2 240 volt, or quite a bit more on a 120 volt. And I've done 3.2 electric miles. So we are on track to be in the 30-ish mile range, supposedly. We'll keep an eye on that. Things I don't like about the Escape. I think I mentioned the material quality on the inside, although the steering wheel feels pretty good and the seats feel good. And arguably that's one of the most important aspects of a car, at least what you're interacting with constantly. The screen is fine, but not my favorite. I don't really like how it's orientated, and it's kind of small just compared to all the other Ford offerings. And Sync 3 is all it comes with. There's no new Sync 4. So it almost feels like it's not like they completely left the Escape lineup behind in the advent of all their new vehicles like the Bronco and the F-150 Progression and the Lightning and the Mustang Mach-E, but this is still a compelling option. I don't think many people would really complain about that. I've just done kind of a consistent stop and go, hit a few stoplights, keeping it under about 40-ish miles an hour, sometimes as low as 20. So I'm kind of really just meandering my way around Fort Collins. Like our MPG test on the highway, we do it loop style so that we don't, we want to keep it as scientific as possible, which of course, how scientific can a around town driving city experience be? We can at least do some of that. There's not much wind today, not that that would have a whole lot of effect at these speeds, but this does counteract most of the elevation, even though there are little hills here and there. Fort Collins is generally a pretty flat city. It's definitely not like Boulder and the likes. So yeah, just cruising along. Things I like about the Escape, like I said, comfortable seating, good steering wheel. I think the heated steering wheel is a bit hot. It's got one of those, I'm going to say, old-fashioned heads-up display, which is kind of a oxymoron. But it's not my favorite. I mean, it works, but Mini has done this, Mazda has done this, the pop-up kind of heads-up display. I like it better when it's just on the windshield, I think. Although maybe I don't. Sometimes the windshield ones are pretty cringy looking, if you ask me. Let's see here. Just easing into this roundabout. And I actually do like the digital gauge cluster quite a bit. You can adjust on, of course, what things you want to see. Got kind of a power meter on the right, the speedometer on the left, and steering wheel controls. This has Ford Copilot 360 Assist Plus, so essentially almost the full driver assistance suite, other than Blue Cruise, of course. But it works pretty well, keeps you centered in the lane, steers for you, doesn't do anything like lane changes, and you have to keep your hands on the wheel. It is a torque input wheel, so you have to actually move the wheel to tell it that you're there, although it's very minor torque input. It's not one of those ones where you have to really jiggle it around. So I do appreciate the way they calibrated that system. Really nitpicking here, but I think I preferred the way they did the shifter in the previous Escape. I don't know if I love the rotary style. And yeah, even the really nitpicking, the seat heater that goes to 3, the previous Escape went to 5, which I felt gave me the exact intonation that I wanted with how hot my seat got. Let's see here, 5.3 electric miles, and we're at 88%. So that's actually looking really good right now. That first stretch where I was kind of doing 35 or 40 for like a mile and a half is what appeared to kill the range a bit. But now that I'm in normal city stop and go with speeds of up to 25 miles an hour, it's doing super well. So I'm really curious about this because, I'm one of those people who could benefit from a plug-in hybrid just because of my commute, especially when I go into like the office or to a friend's house. A lot of places have charging on both ends, or if the one-way commute is less than, say, 15 miles, you should in theory be able to make it both ways, round trip. But if you do run out, you then have the gas engine. So it's really not as risky as trying to do a, let's say, 130 mile one-way trip on an EV that does 260 miles in total range. 50% status report. Just hit 50% state of charge. This is showing 19.9 electric miles, and the guessometer is now at 16 remaining, which is interesting because that started at like, what, 22, 23? It was pretty low, and now it's up to sort of average. I don't know, but at this rate, I'll be getting almost 40 miles of electric range. Now, what we don't know is how the car will function at low state of charge. So, of course, we'll see what happens when we get down to, say, 5% or even less. I'm wondering if it'll really let me get all the way down to 1 or 0% and then kick the engine on. It's always a toss-up with plug-in hybrids. And just like how all of them are acting different with charging the engine or charging the battery while running the engine. For example, the Jeep 4xe, they let you charge up to, I think, 90 or 95%, and then it just won't top it off without being plugged in. Versus this one, yeah, you saw it was, we saw 79% was the peak that it would charge it to. So never really know, but so far this is much more efficient than a Jeep 4xe. The Wrangler 4xe had a much larger battery and a smaller range. Or not a much larger, but a little bit bigger battery and smaller range. Versus this one, my average efficiency, it's saying, is 3.0 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty good, I think. So just gonna keep going here, and I'll check back in about 25%. Just dipped below 25%, and the stated status is 8 miles remaining, and we are at 29.5 electric miles. So looking pretty good to match, maybe even exceed the EPA estimate. Now the EPA estimate, like I said, is 37 miles, maybe 38 miles. And the total range, including gas, would be 520 miles. Really impressive total range. It's more than a Lucid Air. But anyways, a Lucid Air is not the point. This gets 520 miles total range. And now the hybrid Escape, interestingly, gets about 525 to 530 miles total range, which is, yeah, I mean, that's, I think, highway range is what they say. So pretty close. But what's interesting is their numbers are similar, even though this has the battery component, so 38 miles, that doesn't count against the gas tank. But the gas tank on this is a lot smaller, about 11.3 gallons or so, versus the standard gas tank on the other Escape trims are around 14 gallons. So a lot of options there. You can pick up 1.5 liter turbo, 2 liter turbo, 2.5 liter hybrid, 2.5 liter plug-in hybrid, all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, other than the plug-in hybrid that has to be front-wheel drive. A lot of variation with Escapes. Now, with the plug-in hybrid, you do only get 1,500 pounds towing capacity, which is very minimalist. Not a lot there. With the 2 liter turbo, you can opt for the towing package, which is funny to have a towing package and still only give 3,500 pounds, but that's a decent amount. That'll actually tow a small trailer with some stuff on it, a couple motorcycles, yeah, something like that. So definitely capable, but this one, not so much a towing monster, if you ask me. It'd be really interesting to load it down with 1,500 pounds and then do a range test on all electric, although I wonder if it would kick itself out for some reason. But just still cruising along here, down to 20%. So I'll keep you posted as I get near the end. Getting down to the wire here, we have 1% state of charge remaining. It does say 3.2 hours to charge that full on a 240 volt. I think that undercuts their predicted time, normally 3.5 hours. And I've done 38.2 electric miles. So already exceeded EPA. The EPA estimate was 37, of course. How do they measure that? I'm not sure, because there's so many factors and variables. But I tried to be as consistent as possible. You know, a mixture of getting out of people's way, but also gradually cruising. I was never hypermiling in any part of this. Just wanted to basically drive around town like people would normally drive around town. And so far it's been great. I've really enjoyed the drive. It's comfortable. It's quiet, especially in electric mode, and still says 1 mile remaining, 1% state of charge. Just kind of doing this little loop here. What else can I say about this car? Bang & Olufsen premium sound system is pretty good. Not amazing, but definitely better than a lot of systems out there. And especially when you factor in the price of the car, I think that's really quite good. But just nice little area here. Waiting to see what happens when it hits 0. I'm assuming it'll just kick the engine on. And I've had cars do that oh, there's 0. I've had cars do that when they hit 1%. And this one has let me go to 0. Maybe it's based on the mile right there. See, it still says 1 mile remaining. Oh, 0. So we're 0 on both sides, still using power, still has the little symbol at the bottom there for representing all electric mode. So driving around the city all over the place and doing normal city things. I mean, this is probably what a plug-in hybrid Escape owner would do. Drive around the city for 39 miles and then just go and buy some spices. I don't know. But let's wrap this up. We are here and done. 0%, 0 miles remaining. Of course, let's see. Go back down. There we go. So electric driving, that's not right. Trip 2, here we go. So 39.5 total miles, 39 full electric miles. Other than the little engine hiccup somewhere around 30% state of charge where it thought I was giving it too much power and fired up. And at the very end as I was finding parking to safely stop. But that's it. 39 miles, 2 miles above the EPA. And yeah, fantastic, honestly. 30.5 miles per kilowatt hour is the average efficiency based on now. So, and it will say the next full charge I will get the same, more or less, tiny bit less. So yeah, that's really impressive. So there you have it. Plug-in hybrid Ford Escape 2021, 39 miles on a charge with city driving. And that's really quite good. Of course, it doesn't recharge that fast. It took me about an hour and a half, more or less, to do all that. A lot of mixed driving, little hills here and there, up and down, anywhere from 10 to 40 miles an hour average, even peaks of 45. And yeah, really solid city vehicle, honestly. Be sure to check out our other stuff. We're gonna be doing other tests and just reviews and pieces on this car. It's a good car for a lot of people. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
And now, after a pretty successful and impressive city range test of this, I'm taking over. Jordan did a great job driving this around the city and beat EPA projected range. So I'm curious to see how this will do at 70 miles an hour on the highway. It's the next day after Jordan did the test, a little bit different conditions. I'll explain what I've done to prepare the car and some interesting intricacies about why the highway test might be a little bit more difficult to get super accurate on this one, but I'll at least explain. What I've done, of course, is we have the exact same Ford Escape here. I've ran it down. Of course, Jordan ran it down in the test. I then drove it around, charged it up after that test, ran it down to 0, and then did a nice deep charge here on a 240 volt charger. It's actually 208 volt. So now it's topped up to 100. The reason I drove the car pretty hard and charged it this morning is just to get the battery temperature up to working. It's about 45 degrees out right now. So not ideal cold, warm weather conditions, but still, this is what the world, half the US, I should say, experiences in the winter time. The interesting thing is, you can charge the high voltage battery from the combustion engine, but it only charges it to 78% state of charge. We've seen other PHEVs that some don't even allow charging from the combustion engine to charge at the battery, and some go all the way to 100. This one goes max of 78. So we've heated everything up. The combustion engine was up to temperature. The battery pack is up to temperature. What we're going to do is we are at 100% state of charge, about 2 miles from the highway. I'm going to start the car, put it in charge hold setting, which means it's just going to use the combustion engine. We're then going to merge on the highway, get the vehicle up to 70 miles an hour, and then I'm going to lock it in electric mode. A couple things we'll be looking for. Can the car sustain 70 miles an hour using electric power only? We've seen some plug-in hybrids not have enough power to do so. My guess is with a peak power output of 120 kilowatts from the electric motor that it should be able to do that just fine. And then we'll do a loop style test where once we get around half battery charge, we'll flip around and come back and see how well it does. So let's head out for a 70 mile per hour highway efficiency and range test of this plug-in hybrid Escape. So we're all topped up to 100% state of charge. Now it's really important we get the settings correct here. So I'm going to instantly turn on the car. I'm going to select EV charge hold. It says 100% charged. Yeah. 95% electric energy saved for later. So it makes us use 5%. This is so aggravating how it doesn't let you do exactly what you want to do. So I'm going to go here. We're going to go here. We're at 100%. I have it in charge hold mode. If we're going to be running electric, let's just turn off the climate control for now. Everything's off. We'll inch our way over to the highway, and then we'll lock it in EV mode and see how it does at 70. But I have to say, it's projecting 32 miles of range. Jordan did 39. That is a lot for a plug-in hybrid. I have to say, pretty impressive range for sure. And I really don't know if you would need more than that around town. For me, I can do like 3 or 4 commutes on that one charge. The problem is in cold weather, it does some weird things. So yeah, like right now it's driving on electric. It's no regen because it's full. It's driving on electric and it won't let us save the energy for the highway. So this will be really as close to real world as you can get since there's not a charger right off the highway. Anyway, off we go. So here is one of my annoyances with the car already. It doesn't let me have full control over the electrical systems even though I've asked for it. So as you guys saw, I selected the EV button to hold the car at 95% state of charge. Why I couldn't just hold it at 100? Well, perhaps the battery doesn't like to charge at high states of charge and they just want a little bit of buffer in there. Fine. Well, it's still selected to hold at 95% state of charge, but look, we're at 91. And it's not, it kicks on the combustion engine. If I give it the beans, there's the combustion engine, and then it'll hold that for a second, then it goes back to battery. And even doing that uses the electric motor. So I've been doing my best to, I don't know, keep it at 95%, but the car just won't charge it up there. It regens just fine. You can see actually here on this little display, we're regenning right now, so the battery can accept a charge. As I roll into it, it just uses the battery, not the motor. So this is, or I should say the engine. So this is a little bit annoying, but we're gonna get on the highway with 90% state of charge. This is about as good as we can get, you know, trying to hold it in this mode. I guess I just don't understand for the life of me why it won't just do what I've asked it to do. Anyway, we're going to merge onto I-25 North. We're going to accelerate up to 70 miles per hour, and then we're going to go up, and around 50% will come back, or 40% will come back, something like that, to try and even out wind and elevation. Thankfully, almost no wind today, but there will be a little bit of an uphill on the way out and a little bit of a downhill on the way back. We're talking maybe 150, 200 feet of elevation, something like that. Look, I'm rolling into it. Now the engine's kicked on, so we're going to get it up to 70 miles per hour. I still have it set to hold at 95% state of charge, but it won't. Also, I do want to mention there is an L button here for regen, but using it sometimes uses regen and sometimes uses the engine braking, and you never really know. Basically, if the system's cold and it can't regen that much, L will use engine braking, and so you can't rely on it. Anyway, we're going to get up to 70 miles an hour here. I'm going to turn on the great cruise control system with fantastic lane centering. We're going to set it to 70, so I have it set there now. Once we reach it, you can see the car is actually actively lane centering for us. It's accelerating up to 70 miles an hour. We're almost there. We are in eco mode. I do have climate set to 70 degrees as our typical standard testing procedure. I'm going to click the EV button. If you look here on the screen, you'll see it cycles through to all electric driving. So now you can see the electric motor fill in the gap, turns off the engine seamlessly, and we have started. So let me just make sure our trip computer's reset so we don't miss anything. Hold OK to reset. It wasn't. There we go. We got about, I don't know, 0.3 of a mile there in electric mode. But now we're just cruising at 70 on the fantastic Copilot 360 with assistance function. And seems to be doing a great job, I have to say. Very quiet, very comfortable on the highway. Some PHEVs, by the way, will do better range on the highway than in the city. And this is typically those that have motors that are in front of the transmission. So like BMW plugins always do better on the highway than the city, which is, I never thought would be possible. I don't think we'll see that here. I'm pretty sure the electric motor is after the transmission. It's a CVT in this particular case. I don't believe it's running right now, but we'll see what it does. We're almost a mile in, and we've burned quite a bit of juice already. So it may be pretty inefficient on the highway. We'll have to wait and see. We'll update you as we go. We are at 50% state of charge, so we're just exiting right here, you can see. And what we're going to do is kick it off now. We're going to sort of regen and coast our way in. We'll get on and head the other way. Like I said, we did have a little bit of a climb to get up this way, so now we should get a little bit better efficiency on the way back. Looking forward to seeing how this thing does.
Take a look at that view.
Beautiful. We're just merging back onto I-25 South here, so what we're going to do is sort of gently merge up to speed. This one we do on the loop merge up on the electric power only. Thankfully, this one has a little bit of a downhill to help us get up to speed. Seemingly no issue for this car to maintain 70 miles per hour. Does it piece of cake on the electric motor, which we can't say about every plug-in hybrid. So without question, the electric motor in this particular car is sized properly, and a very robust electric system. Concerning the power output of it is just very impressive, I have to say. So merging back up to 70 miles an hour. By the way, we did check is a GPS accurate 70 miles per hour. We're down to 46% state of charge. It's not looking good for high speed efficiency here in this thing, but we'll see how it does, hopefully with a little bit of downhill advantage overall. But this seems to be really a good inner city medium speed plug-in on my impression right now, but we'll get the total mileage at the end. Well, we've gone one exit past where we started. It was a little bit better efficiency going this way. That's why we always run a loop style test. We're down to about 10% state of charge, so we're actually going to loop back on the highway another time back to where we started, and we'll come up with our total range figure. But have to say, really not bad performance here, at least on initial impression. Certainly nowhere near what this thing did in the city. So it's not a BMW plug-in situation, but considering the size of this vehicle and also that it's kind of chilly outside at, 41 degrees Fahrenheit, and we have climate control running as per our testing procedures, it's really not too bad. Let's see what it finishes up with. We have 1 mile remaining. We are at 2% state of charge, indicated 1 mile here, and let's just see what happens when it runs all the way out. Again, we have it in eco mode. We have it locked in battery electric mode. You guys would have already known because Jordan probably showed you what it would do. I haven't seen it yet, so let's see. We are at 1% state of charge, 1 mile remaining. What's it gonna do? 0 miles remaining. What I expect to see is this little engine kick on there next to the battery pack. So we're just cruising along here. We have a slight uphill. We're at 0% state of charge. It's still going. Wow. Oh, the engine just kicked on. So we've done 23.6 miles at 70 miles an hour. And I'm curious to see what will happen now. This is back where we started, so it's almost a full loop. We were just about a half a mile short of where we came on. That was the ultimate perfect highway PHEV test, I would say. I would have loved to do it with one turnaround loop rather than two, but hey, what can you do? It all averages out. At least it should. It's close enough. So we're at 0%, 23.6 miles at 70 miles an hour, about a little more than half of what you get in the city. And I think that's probably to be expected on a PHEV. You're not regenning. It's a smaller battery pack, about 14 kilowatt hours. We don't know if that's installed or usable. The car said we averaged about 3 miles per kilowatt hour on that test, although I don't know the exact reset point since I can't reset the electrical consumption. But as we pull away, it's still using, it's using mostly combustion right now to move us. So yeah, you can see it's already charging up the battery pack, 0%. It was just 1% there. So I imagine it'll get it to a healthy buffer, and then it'll just cruise along. How about that? The Escape PHEV. We've done the city and highway PHEV range tests, and there is a separate MPG video coming on this car as well. Thanks so much for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. 23.6 on the highway, about 39 in the city. That's fairly sizable for a PHEV. You can do a lot of commuting in that range.